Lila had always loved the quiet moments of the town at night. The streets were empty, the lanterns glowed softly, and the cool breeze carried a calmness she could never find during the busy day. Tonight, however, the town felt even more alive, though no one else was around. There was something strange in the air, almost like a secret waiting to be discovered. Earlier that evening, Lila had found a small note tucked inside her mailbox. The paper was smooth, and the handwriting was delicate and careful. It read, "Meet me at the fountain at midnight. I have something to show you." There was no name, no clue about who had sent it. Lila held the note in her hand, feeling a mixture of excitement and curiosity. Who would want to meet her at the fountain in the middle of the night? She could not remember speaking to anyone new recently. And yet, a part of her heart urged her to go. Her room was filled with her paintings, sketches of the town, of people she saw every day, and sometimes of places she had never visited. She often painted under the moonlight because it gave her ideas she could never find during the day. The fountain in the town square was one of her favorite subjects, and she had spent many evenings sketching it, imagining stories behind the water, the lights, and the quiet cobblestone streets around it. Now, the thought of being there at midnight, alone but not quite alone, made her pulse quicken. She decided to take the risk. After all, life was about moments like this, moments that felt like they belonged to a storybook. As the night grew darker, Lila dressed warmly and stepped outside. The cool air brushed her face, and she took a deep breath. The streets were empty, save for the occasional rustle of leaves or the soft sound of her own footsteps echoing against the walls of the buildings. She felt a thrill, a gentle shiver running down her spine. When she arrived at the fountain, the sight made her stop in her tracks. Moonlight reflected off the water, making it shine like liquid silver. The gentle sound of water flowing over the stone added a peaceful rhythm to the night. Lila walked closer, her heart beating faster with each step. The square looked different at night, more magical, more mysterious. She glanced around. The fountain was empty, yet the note's promise hung in the air. Lila felt a mix of anticipation and nervousness. She tried to think of who might be behind the note, but no one came to mind. Perhaps it was someone who admired her art, someone who had noticed her sketches of the fountain and wanted to meet her. Or maybe it was simply a prank. She shook the thought away. A soft sound made her turn her head. A shadow moved near the edge of the fountain. She squinted, trying to see clearly. "Hello," she called softly, her voice barely louder than a whisper. The shadow shifted, and a young man stepped forward. He smiled gently, and Lila felt a strange calm settle over her. He was not someone she had met before, but there was something familiar in the kindness of his eyes. "You must be Lila," he said softly. "I hope I didn't frighten you." I'm not sure," she replied, feeling a little shy. "Who are you?" "My name is Kian," he said. "I've admired your paintings from afar. I wanted to meet you, to show you that sometimes the world can feel as magical as the art you create." Lila blinked, surprised. She had never expected such words from a stranger. And yet, there was something sincere in his tone, something that made her heart flutter. She studied him for a moment, noticing the way he stood quietly by the fountain, as if he belonged to the night itself. Thank you," she said finally, smiling a little. "It's nice to meet you." Kian smiled back, a soft warmth spreading through his expression. "I wanted tonight to be special. The fountain, the moon, it all felt like the right place to meet someone who sees the world beautifully." Lila looked at the fountain again, shimmering under the moonlight. She felt a shiver of excitement. Something told her that this night was only the beginning, that the magic of the Midnight Fountain held a story waiting just for her and perhaps for Kian as well. For the first time in a long while, she felt the thrill of possibility. And she knew, without a doubt, that she wanted to see where it would lead. Lila stood quietly by the fountain, feeling the cool night breeze against her face. The water shimmered in the moonlight, dancing softly over the edges of the stone basin. Kian remained a few steps away, watching her with a gentle smile. Despite the mystery surrounding him, she felt a curious comfort in his presence. "I never expected someone to leave me a note like that," Lila said, her voice soft. "I wondered who it could be." Kian nodded, his eyes reflecting the fountain's light. "It wasn't easy for me," he admitted. "I didn't know how to introduce myself, or if I even should. But your paintings, they spoke to me. They made me feel something I can't describe. I thought meeting you here, at this moment, might be the right way to start." Lila's heart fluttered at his words. She had never met anyone who spoke about her art with such attention and care. You really saw them?" she asked, curious and a little shy. "I did," Kian replied. "Every brush stroke, every detail. Your art tells a story, your story, in some way." He paused, his gaze shifting to the fountain. "And I wanted to be part of a story with you. Even if only for tonight." Lila felt a warmth spread across her cheeks. Part of her wanted to step closer, to study the sincerity in his eyes. But another part hesitated. She didn't know him. How could she trust the words of a stranger? Kian seemed to sense her hesitation. "I understand if this feels strange," he said gently. "I'm not here to scare you or make you uncomfortable. I just wanted to share this night with someone who understands beauty in small things." The night was quiet around them. Only the soft sound of water splashing and the occasional rustle of leaves broke the silence. Lila looked at Kian again. There was honesty in his expression, a quiet strength she didn't often see in strangers. Slowly, she found herself smiling. "All right," she said, her voice steadying. "I'll give you this night. I'll see where this goes." Kian's smile widened, a small flicker of relief passing over his face. "Thank you," he said softly. "I promise, this night will be worth it." For a few moments, they simply stood there, watching the fountain. The moonlight reflected off the water like tiny stars scattered across the surface. Lila found herself relaxing, feeling a strange sense of trust forming between them. "Do you come to the fountain often?" Lila asked after a while, curious about this mysterious stranger. "Not often," Kian admitted. "But when I do, I notice things most people overlook. The way the water moves, the way the moon hits the stone, even the little carvings that are easy to miss. It feels peaceful, almost like a place where time doesn't matter." Lila nodded, understanding completely. She had always felt the same way about the fountain, the streets, and the quiet corners of her town. "I paint it sometimes," she confessed. "I like capturing the way it looks at night, when it feels magical." "That explains the feeling in your work," Kian said, his voice soft. "You see the magic too." The conversation flowed naturally after that. They spoke about small things first: the town, the quiet streets, their favorite places to spend time. Gradually, they began sharing more personal thoughts. Lila told Kian about her dreams of painting a gallery full of her night scenes, places that felt alive under the moon. Kian spoke about his love for music, how he often wandered the streets playing soft tunes on his old guitar, hoping someone might hear and feel the same magic he did. As the minutes passed, Lila realized something surprising. She felt a connection to Kian she had never felt with anyone before. It wasn't just curiosity or excitement, it was the sense that someone truly understood the way she saw the world. Kian's gaze lingered on her, not in a way that made her uncomfortable, but in a way that made her feel seen, noticed, and valued. "You're different from anyone I've ever met," he said quietly. Lila's heart skipped a beat. She didn't know what the night would bring, but she felt ready to find out. There was something about Kian, something gentle and intriguing, that made her want to step further into this unexpected encounter. The fountain sparkled behind them, the water flowing as if echoing the rhythm of their hearts. The night was just beginning, and both of them sensed that this magical hour might be the start of something unforgettable. The fountain's gentle gurgle filled the quiet night as Lila and Kian stepped away from its edge. The moon hung high above, casting silver light over the cobblestone streets. The town, usually lively during the day, now felt almost secret, as if it existed just for them. "I know it's late," Kian said softly, glancing at Lila. "But would you like to take a walk? There are places in the town that look completely different at night, almost magical." Lila hesitated for a moment, then smiled. "I'd like that," she replied. The thrill of adventure mingled with the curiosity she felt about Kian. She didn't know why she trusted him already, but something about his presence felt calm and honest. They walked slowly, side by side, letting the silence stretch comfortably between them. The cool air carried the faint scent of flowers from nearby gardens, and the occasional distant sound of an owl or a soft breeze through the trees added to the quiet magic of the night. Kian pointed to a narrow alleyway lined with lanterns. "See that?" he said. "During the day, it looks ordinary. But at night, the lights make it feel like a tunnel to another world." Lila turned and smiled. "I love that. Ordinary places can become extraordinary if you notice them the right way." He chuckled softly. "Exactly. That's why I wanted you to come tonight. I thought you'd understand." As they walked further, the conversation deepened. They talked about their favorite memories, the small moments that left lasting impressions. Lila shared stories of painting under the moonlight, of capturing reflections on the fountain's water, and the thrill of seeing her work come alive on paper. Kian spoke of late nights playing his guitar, of music that could make him feel 1,000 emotions at once. "You really see the world in a special way," Kian said, glancing at her. "I've met many people, but rarely someone who notices the small, beautiful details that often go unseen." Lila felt a warm glow at his words. "And you?" she asked. "Do you often notice the small details?" "Sometimes," he admitted with a smile. "But I notice them more when someone else shows me how. Like tonight, walking with you, I feel like I'm seeing things I've never noticed before." Their footsteps echoed softly against the stones as they continued along the quiet streets. Kian paused beside a small bridge crossing a narrow stream. The water reflected the moon and stars, shimmering like liquid light. "I come here sometimes," he said. "It's peaceful, and it reminds me to slow down. Nights like these, they make you realize what really matters." Lila leaned on the bridge's railing, gazing at the water. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "I can see why you come here." Kian stood beside her, their shoulders almost touching. The closeness was gentle, comfortable, and it made Lila's heart beat a little faster. "Sometimes," he said, "it's the people who make the moment even more beautiful." She turned to look at him, surprised by the depth in his words. "People can be," Like that? She asked softly. They can, Kian replied, smiling. Especially when you meet someone who understands the world in a way that feels familiar, even if you've never met them before. Lila felt a shiver of excitement. The connection between them was growing, subtle but undeniable. There was no rush, no pressure, just the quiet intimacy of sharing thoughts, dreams, and the stillness of a town sleeping under the moon. They continued their walk, passing hidden gardens, quiet squares, and lantern-lit alleys. Every step seemed to bring them closer, not just physically, but in understanding and trust. Lila realized she had never experienced a night like this, one that felt like it existed outside of ordinary time. Eventually, they returned to the fountain, their path lit by the gentle glow of the moonlight and the quiet sparkle of the town's lamps. Lila felt a calm joy she couldn't quite explain, a sense that something important had begun, even if she didn't know where it would lead. Kian turned to her, his eyes reflecting the shimmering water. "Thank you for walking with me," he said softly. "Tonight, it's already more special than I could have hoped for." Lila smiled, feeling a warmth in her chest. "It's been wonderful," she replied. And for the first time that night, she allowed herself to hope that this encounter at the midnight fountain was just the beginning of something extraordinary. The moon hung high in the sky, spilling silver light across the quiet town as Lila and Kian returned to the fountain. The gentle ripple of water over the stone edges created a soothing rhythm, like the heartbeat of the night itself. Lila felt a lightness in her chest, a sense of joy she hadn't felt in a long time. The evening had been magical, and now it seemed Kian had something else in mind. "I have an idea," Kian said suddenly, a playful spark in his eyes. "Do you want to play a little game?" Lila raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "A game? At midnight?" "Yes," he said, grinning. "A scavenger hunt of sorts. There are small inscriptions and carvings hidden around the fountain, tiny messages and drawings that most people never notice. If you find them, you'll see things I thought you might like." Lila's curiosity lit up. "Hidden messages? Really? That sounds exciting." Kian nodded. "It's simple. Whoever finds the most messages wins. But I warn you, I'm very observant." Lila laughed softly, her heart fluttering with amusement and anticipation. "All right, then. You're on." They started near the base of the fountain, crouching low and examining the carved stones carefully. The first message was a tiny heart etched into the corner of one stone. Lila traced it gently with her finger, smiling. "I found one," she said triumphantly. Kian leaned over to look. "Nice. But there's another over here," he said, pointing to a delicate swirl near the water's edge. As he bent to show her, their hands brushed accidentally. Both froze for a moment, and Lila felt a sudden warmth rise to her cheeks. Kian's eyes met hers, and he gave a small, sheepish smile. "Oops," he said quietly. "I guess we're sharing discoveries now." Lila laughed softly, shaking her head. "Seems like it." They continued around the fountain, searching for tiny carvings, small notes tucked behind stones, and hidden sketches that Kian had placed earlier. Each discovery brought a shared excitement, and each brush of their hands or accidental closeness made the night feel more magical. At one point, Lila crouched to examine a faint symbol near the fountain's base. Kian leaned over her shoulder to see, their faces close enough that she could see the soft gleam in his eyes. "It's amazing how much detail you notice," he said, his voice gentle. "You notice things too," Lila replied, a small smile playing on her lips. It's like we see the world the same way. The next discovery was a small drawing of the fountain itself, with tiny stars etched above it. Lila gasped softly. "Did you make this?" she asked. Kian nodded. "I wanted you to notice something that might remind you of tonight, a little memory hidden in plain sight." Lila felt a warm flutter in her heart. It wasn't just the drawings or carvings, it was the thoughtfulness behind them, the way Kian had created a small adventure just for her. She realized that each moment with him felt like a secret shared between two people who truly understood each other. Finally, after several more discoveries, they stood side by side, tallying their finds. Lila had found 5 hidden messages, Kian had found 6. "You win," Lila said with mock disappointment, laughing. "No, you win," Kian insisted, his eyes twinkling. "You noticed the details I missed. That counts for more." Lila smiled, feeling a soft warmth in her chest. "Maybe it's a tie then," she suggested. Kian nodded, reaching out to gently touch her hand. "A tie," he agreed. The contact sent a small thrill through her, and she realized she didn't want to let go. They stood together by the fountain, the playful competition over but the connection between them stronger than ever. The night seemed to pause, holding them in a moment of quiet intimacy. Lila felt a happiness she hadn't known she was missing, a sense that this midnight encounter was something extraordinary. "The fountain, the moon, everything feels different tonight," Lila said softly, her voice barely louder than the sound of the water. Kian's gaze met hers, steady and warm. "It's the people who make it different," he replied. "Being here with you, it feels like the night itself is smiling." Lila's heart fluttered again, a mix of excitement and wonder. She knew that this was more than just a game or a walk, it was the beginning of a story that was only theirs to discover. And as they stood together under the moonlight, the fountain sparkling like liquid silver, she felt certain that tonight would be a memory she would carry forever. The moon hung high in the sky, its silver light dancing across the fountain's rippling water. Lila and Kian sat on the low stone ledge beside it, their laughter from the playful scavenger hunt fading into a comfortable silence. The night was calm, and the town's quiet seemed to wrap around them like a gentle blanket. Lila watched the water glimmer and thought about the evening so far. She had never expected to meet someone like Kian, someone who understood her, someone whose presence felt both exciting and safe. She felt a flutter in her chest, a warmth she hadn't noticed before. Kian, meanwhile, was watching her quietly, a small smile on his lips. He had wanted this night to be special, and it had been, more than he could have imagined. But now, as they sat side by side, he felt an urge to speak what had been growing in his heart all evening. "Lila," he began softly, his voice low and gentle. She turned to him, curious and attentive. I have to tell you something. I don't usually feel this way, not so quickly, but, tonight, being with you, it feels different. I feel a connection to you that I can't explain." Lila felt her heart skip a beat. She hadn't expected him to say such words, yet somehow they didn't surprise her. She had felt the same pull, the same curiosity and excitement growing with each step they had taken together. Kian continued, his gaze fixed on her. "I admire your art, your way of seeing the world, but more than that, I admire you. I admire your kindness, your curiosity, and the way you notice things most people miss. Being here with you, it feels like something important is beginning." Lila's eyes softened. She could feel the sincerity in his voice, the honesty in his eyes. "Kian. I. I feel the same," she admitted quietly. I didn't know what to expect tonight, but, being with you feels, right. He smiled, a gentle, relieved smile that made Lila's heart beat faster. I was afraid I might have said too much, he confessed, or that it might be too soon. But I wanted you to know how I feel, because I can't ignore it. For a moment, they simply sat together, the fountain's water sparkling in the moonlight. The silence was not empty, it was full of meaning, full of the unspoken understanding that had grown between them. Lila felt a warmth spreading through her chest, a sense of happiness she hadn't felt in a long time. You make everything feel magical, she said softly. Even the ordinary streets, the quiet fountain, tonight, it all feels alive. Kian reached out, gently taking her hand in his. It's not just the places, he said. It's the people you share them with. Tonight, sharing this with you, it feels like the world has a new color I never noticed before. Lila's breath caught. The way he spoke, so honest and kind, made her heart ache with a gentle longing. She squeezed his hand, letting him know she felt the same. There was no rush, no expectation, just the pure, quiet understanding between two people who had found a rare connection. They leaned back slightly, watching the water cascade over the fountain's edge. The moon reflected off the ripples, creating tiny sparkles that danced like stars. Lila felt a calm joy, a sense of wonder that she didn't want to end. Kian, she said softly, tonight. I think I'll remember it forever. Me too, he replied, his smile warm and genuine. No matter what comes next, I'm glad I met you tonight. And I hope we can continue the story together. Lila felt a gentle thrill at his words, a sense of possibility opening before her. She nodded, squeezing his hand once more. I'd like that, she said. And in that quiet moment by the fountain, under the moonlight, they shared a look filled with hope, trust, and the promise of something beautiful just beginning. The night seemed to hold its breath, as if the town itself was celebrating this first step of their story. The fountain shimmered, the moonlight danced, and two hearts sat side by side, ready to explore the magic of what had just begun. The fountain glistened softly under the moonlight, its waters reflecting silver and tiny hints of gold from the street lamps nearby. The night had grown quieter, almost as if the world itself had paused to watch Lila and Kian. The playful laughter from earlier had settled into a comfortable, shared silence, filled with unspoken understanding. Kian turned to Lila, a gentle smile playing on his lips. Would you like to dance? He asked softly. Lila blinked in surprise. Dance, she repeated, her voice light and curious. Yes, Kian said, stepping a little closer. No music, just the night, the fountain, and us. Lila hesitated, a small laugh escaping her lips. I've never danced like that before, she admitted. Neither have I, Kian said, his voice warm. But sometimes, the best dances are the ones that are unplanned. With that, Lila allowed herself to be led to the center of the fountain's circle. Kian held out his hand, and she placed hers in his. Their fingers intertwined, fitting together naturally. The gentle touch sent a small shiver down her spine, a mixture of excitement and comfort. They began to move slowly, tentatively at first, feeling the rhythm in their own hearts rather than in any music. The sound of the fountain became their melody, the moonlight their spotlight. Lila could feel Kian's steady presence beside her, guiding her movements with soft confidence. This is nice, she whispered, a smile lighting her face. It is, Kian agreed. There's something magical about dancing under the moonlight, don't you think? Lila nodded. It feels like the whole world has stopped just for us. As they moved together, the awkwardness faded, replaced by a gentle harmony. Their steps synchronized naturally, as if they had been dancing together for years rather than mere minutes. Lila laughed softly when they stumbled slightly over an uneven stone, and Kian laughed too, the sound warm and full of joy. "You're good at this," Lila said teasingly, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. "I think we make a good team," Kian replied, his eyes twinkling in the moonlight. "Even if we're a little offbeat sometimes." They continued to move, their arms brushing lightly, their hands occasionally holding tighter when the moment felt right. The night air wrapped around them like a gentle cloak, and the town around the fountain seemed to fade away. All that mattered was the connection between them, a quiet and growing bond that neither could ignore. At one point, Kian spun Lila gently, making her laugh with delight. She felt a rush of freedom and happiness, as if all her worries had melted away in the silver glow of the moon. When he pulled her back close, their faces were inches apart, and Lila could see the sincerity in his eyes. "You know," Kian said softly, "I don't want this night to end." "Neither do I," Lila admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "It feels perfect." They swayed together for a few more moments, letting the night guide them. Lila rested her head lightly against Kian's shoulder, and he adjusted his steps to make sure she felt safe and comfortable. The rhythm of the fountain and the softness of the night became a shared heartbeat between them. Finally, they stopped, breathless but smiling. Kian took both of her hands in his, holding them gently. "Tonight has been incredible," he said. "I feel like I've known you longer than just a few hours." "Me too," Lila replied. Her heart felt full, a warmth spreading from her chest to her fingertips. "I never imagined a night could feel like this." They stood together by the fountain for a while longer, watching the water shimmer and listening to the quiet sounds of the town. The magic of the night seemed to settle around them, as if everything had aligned perfectly for this shared moment. Kian finally spoke again, his voice low and sincere. I hope this is just the beginning." Lila looked into his eyes, feeling a sense of certainty she had not felt in a long time. "It is," she said softly. "I think it is." And as the fountain sparkled beneath the moonlight, Lila and Kian knew that their story full of magic, laughter, and quiet understanding was only just beginning. The first hints of dawn began to glow softly over the quiet town, painting the sky in gentle shades of pink and gold. Lila and Kian still sat by the fountain, their legs dangling over the edge, watching the water ripple in the soft morning light. The magical night they had shared was slowly giving way to a new day, but neither of them felt any rush to leave. "This night, it's been unlike anything I've ever experienced," Lila said softly, her eyes reflecting both the fountain and the rising sun. "I didn't know something so simple could feel so special." Kian smiled, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. "I feel the same," he admitted. "I think some nights are meant to stay with you forever. Tonight, will stay with me." For a moment, they simply sat in silence, letting the quiet comfort of the fountain and the soft morning air fill the space between them. Lila felt a gentle warmth spread through her chest. The connection they had formed over the night, the laughter, the playful games, the whispered words, and the quiet dances felt like something precious and rare. Kian turned to her, his eyes serious but soft. "Lila, I know tonight was only the beginning, but I want you to know something. I want to continue discovering this us. I don't know what the future holds, but I want to share it with you, step by step." Lila felt her heart flutter at his words. The sincerity in his voice, the honesty in his gaze, made her feel safe and understood in a way she had rarely felt. "I want that too," she said quietly. "I don't know what will happen, but I want to find out, with you." Kian reached out and gently held her hand, intertwining their fingers. The touch was tender, grounding, and yet filled with the promise of something more. "Then it's settled," he said with a soft smile. "We'll take it one day at a time, and see where it leads." They watched the sky together as the sun rose higher, casting a warm glow over the town. Birds began to stir, singing their morning songs, and the fountain sparkled brighter in the early light. Lila felt a calm happiness settle over her, a feeling of hope and possibility that made her chest swell with warmth. "You know," she said after a while, "I used to come to the fountain just to paint, to capture its quiet beauty. But tonight, it feels like the fountain itself told a story." "Our story?" Kian laughed softly. "I think it did. The fountain has a way of showing people what matters, and maybe tonight, it wanted us to see each other." They smiled at each other, the kind of smile that speaks without words, full of understanding and quiet affection. Lila felt a gentle thrill at the thought of the memories they had created, and the ones yet to come. As the town slowly came to life around them, with shopkeepers opening their doors and early morning light spilling onto the streets, Lila and Kian finally stood. They lingered a moment, hands still joined, unwilling to break the connection they had built. "I guess this is where we part for now," Lila said softly, though she felt no sadness, only anticipation for the next meeting. "Yes," Kian replied, his thumb brushing over the back of her hand. "But only for now. We'll meet again, and continue what we started tonight. I promise." Lila nodded, her heart light with hope. "I'll hold you to that promise," she said with a gentle smile. They walked together toward the edge of the town square, their fingers still linked. Each step felt easy, natural, as if they had known each other far longer than a single night. When it was time to say goodbye, they paused, looking at each other with eyes full of unspoken words. "Goodbye for now," Kian said, his voice soft but warm. "Goodbye," Lila replied. "Until next time." With one last shared smile, they parted ways, each carrying the memory of the magical night, the laughter, the playful games, and the soft dances under the moonlight. Lila turned back once, seeing the fountain shimmer in the morning sun, and felt a sense of peace. The midnight fountain had given them more than a night of magic, it had given them a beginning, a story that was theirs alone. And as Lila walked home, her heart felt full, knowing that this was only the start of something beautiful, something timeless, something worth remembering forever.